One thing before we start. I'm a mechanic, not a doctor. This is what worked for me, not a prescription for you. If you drink heavily every day, talk to a doctor before you stop. Withdrawal can get serious. A doctor can help you do this safely. 90 days. If you've watched the other two videos, you knew this one was coming. Here it is. This one's going to be different from the first two. 30 days was about surviving the change. 60 was about the change becoming real. 90 isn't about change anymore. 90 is about what's just true now. Less science in this one, less explaining how your liver works. By this point, you don't need convincing. You need to know what it actually feels like to live here. So let's talk about what a sober life actually looks like. One number before we get into it. 90 days is the figure that shows up most consistently across habit research as the point where a new behavior stops requiring conscious maintenance and starts running mostly on its own. That's the most repeated number in what I've read. It means somewhere in this stretch, the fight you've been having quietly stops being a fight. You'll probably notice it happened a few days after it already did. That's how it tends to go. Weeks 9 and 10 are where something happens that most people don't talk about. You start forgetting. Not the big stuff. You start forgetting what it felt like to want to drink in the specific situation that used to guarantee one. A bad day at work, a stressful phone call, the drive home on a Friday. Those triggers used to come with an automatic next step attached. Around week 9, that automatic step starts going quiet. You notice this less as a victory and more as a strange absence, like a sound that was always in the background finally stopped and you only notice the quiet. Week 11, somebody from your old life might show up, maybe literally, maybe just in conversation. Somebody who knew you when. Somebody who's going to order a drink in front of you and either forget you don't drink anymore or test you a little to see if you really mean it. This is the closest thing to a final exam in the whole 90 days. And here's what's different about taking it now versus taking it at day 10. At day 10, that moment would have required willpower. At week 11, it mostly just requires you to be yourself. You're not resisting anything in that moment. You're being just the guy who doesn't drink anymore. The resistance already happened weeks ago without you noticing. Also, and I say this with real affection, some of those old friendships quietly fade around now. Not because anyone did anything wrong, just because a lot of those relationships were built on a shared activity that one of you stopped doing. That's allowed to be a little sad and completely fine at the same time. Week 12, 3 months. Here's the honest description of what daily life actually looks like now. You wake up and the question of whether today is a drinking day doesn't exist anymore. It stopped being a question weeks ago, but here's what's waiting on the other side of it. When drinking isn't taking up the hours, the mental energy, the recovery time, the foggy mornings, you suddenly have room, real room, and what you do with that room is entirely up to you. Some guys pick up something they set down years ago, a hobby, a skill, something physical, something creative, something they always told themselves they'd get to eventually. Eventually just became now. Others use it to go deeper into what they're already doing, train harder, starting Jiu Jitsu, build something, show up more fully for the people around them. The point isn't what you fill it with. The point is that for the first time in a long time, you actually get to choose. You're not managing a habit anymore. You're running at something instead of away from something. That's what a sober life at 90 days actually looks like. Not white-knuckling through another day. A life where you might actually find out what you're capable of. Day 90 has one more thing under the hood. You stop being the guy who quit drinking. You just become a guy most people blow right past. For 90 days, a part of your identity was built around the challenge. The effort, the milestone, counting, that mattered. It got to you here. But the goal was never to become a professional non-drinker. The goal was to disappear back into being a regular person who happens to not drink. No special category required, no explanation owed to anyone. That's what 90 days actually buys you. 30 days put the engine back together. 60 days proved it would hold. 90 days where you just drive, not because it stopped mattering, because it stopped being the main event. Your life is the main event again. Sobriety is just how you're living it. I'm not going to make a 120-day video, and I'm not going to make a 6-month video. This is where the challenge series ends, because at some point, counting days stops being useful and just living them takes over. That's not me running out of things to say. That's the whole point. If you made it through all 3 of these with me, 30, 60, 90, comment below. Tell me where you started and where you are now. I want to know. And if you're just finding this video and you haven't started yet, the first one's still up. Day 1 is still day 1, whenever you're ready for it. Thank you, and God bless.